In this Python programming techniques tutorial, we're just going to have a look at using arrays to create a shopping list, and then we're going to use a text file to create a receipt for my shopping list. But this time we're going to use a more advanced and slightly more efficient method than we did in the previous video clip. We've got the same set of items and lists as we did before. There's a list called item, a list called quantity, a list called price. You might know them as arrays, and in each one we've got 3 items. There, and there. So just to give you an example, Coke, I'd have 3 Cokes and each would be £9.99. Right, that's item 0 of item, that's item 0 of quantity, and that is item 0 of price. And the way that I've coded this program is so that they all correspond to each other depending on where they are in the list. So let's put that into a receipt using a more advanced method. So my file equals open. Let's give it a file name with speech marks .txt, receipt.text, then comma, and we need write permissions to do that because we're creating a text file and we're going to add to it, so we need write permissions. First thing I'm going to write in there, my file.write, I'm going to try and make this as user friendly and look as much like a receipt as possible. So there's lines all over a receipt, so I'm going to add in a load of lines. I don't know how many, it's trial and error. Then I'm going to do my file.write brackets, and then in this time I'm going to add the column headings, so item. Then I'm going to put in some escape characters of \t, which we know are escape characters for a tab space. So lots of spaces, the equivalent of me doing this, but not having to do that. So \t. Then I want quantity. Then I \t, and I want price. Right, like that. I'm going to put a \n in here as well, because a \n would mean anything that comes after this entire line would go underneath rather than on the same line, which it would have done had there not have been a \n. So \n is new line. Then I'm going to say my file.write, and I'm going to put more lines in again to make it look like a receipt. I'm going to leave it there and just make sure that that lines up nicely. So I'm going to put in a my file.close statement there. Let's have a look. Run it, open it. Okay, that's what that currently looks like. We've got a problem there. Item, quantity, and price, the column headings, have appeared on the same line as my lines. So we've got a \n missing. Let's go back. We need a \n at the end of these lines. And let's put one at the end of this line because I know I'm going to add more to the file. Let's run it this time. Let's have a look. That's much more like it already. Now I know I'm going to put in quite a few of these lines, so I'm just going to copy that entire line, Control-C, and I'm going to use that again later. So that's worked fine. Let's take this line out because I don't want to close the file just yet. Let's add the items using a for loop instead of writing out each one separately, which is what we did before. So for I in range, so saying for in range, how many times are I going to go round? I want to do this the number of times that the number of items that there are on the list, which in this case is 3. So I'm going to say, I could say 0 to 3 like that, but if I then added another one to this list, this then wouldn't work. So I'm going to say instead of 0 to 3, I'm going to say 0 to the length of the item list, like that. So from 0 to 3, that equivalent, what are we going to do? I'm going to say my file.write. And then I'm going to say, in the brackets, I want item number 0. Whereas I've got a for loop counting here, so there's my counter. So I can say item I, which in this first example would be item 0. That's the first thing I want it to appear in there. Then I'm going to add on, or concatenate on, 2 \t's. And the reason I'm doing that is so that when the next line comes along, it will line up with quantity. Right, no \n because I'm still on the one line at the moment. So my file.write, then I want it to come up with the quantity. Again, item I, which will be 0 this time. And then again, I'm going to need to add in my \t again. Just before we get a problem, because quantity is a float, is an integer there, look. So we need to convert that to a string. Otherwise, it will not allow me to put the \n at the end. So let's make that a string. And then finally, we're going to take my file.write. And again, we want quantity item, the first item there. And this time, we're going to need to add on our \n because that is the end of one line. Those 3 code lines there create one long line of text file. Again, we need to create convert quantity into a string like that. Right, that probably will look all right. I'm going to paste in that line there. So I've taken that out of the loop because I don't want lines to appear between every item. I only want it to do it once it's finished all of the items. So once it's gone around this 3 times, then I want a line to underline it, which is fine. Let's have a look what that looks like. My file.close. We need that, otherwise it won't work. F5 to run. No error messages, always a good sign. Let's open receipt. That's currently what it looks like. Actually, that's not too bad, other than the fact that price doesn't line up with the prices. And I've made a mistake here because we've got quantity in there twice. So let's correct these mistakes. Shouldn't have put quantity in there. I should have in fact put price. That's one mistake. And let's take off one of the \t's from the column heading because it didn't line up properly. That does happen sometimes when using tab. A little bit of trial and error. Let's see what it looks like this time. That's much more like it. That's looking like a receipt already. And the last thing I'm going to do is add a total column. So I want total to appear around about where my cursor is hovering there. So I want the word total here and then the total price there. So what I'm going to do there, let's take off my file.close again. Otherwise we're going to have a problem adding to it. Right, I'm going to work out the total now. So total is currently 0. I've initialized my variable there. Now I'm going to use another for loop for j in range. Only using j this time because I've used I before, but again this is just a counter from 0 to the length of item. Again, what am I going to do 3 times this time? Let's create a temporary variable. Temporary variable is going to be quantity I. So quantity I on this, quantity j, I beg your pardon, of course. Quantity j on this occasion would be a 3 times price j, which would be £9.99. So 3 times £9.99, and then total equals total, which it was before, 0 plus temp, which on this occasion is £9.99 plus 3 times 3. Then the next time it goes round, for j in range, this time j will be a 1. So temp this time is going to be quantity j, which is 1 times £3.99 with price j there. Then that is going to add it to the total that I had running before. That should be fine for that. Let's come out of the loop because we've worked out the overall total. Now I want to do my file.write, and I'm going to guess a bit of guesswork here with the tabs. Let's do t total. Let's just to move the word total away from the left margin. Another \t to separate it out. Then we want to do plus, and we want total. But again, total is going to be a float, so we need to convert that to a string. So let's put that in there. And then finally, let's add on a \n in case I add anything else to the file later. And then let's just put a line in nicely underneath it, and my file.close. Here is the big test. Let's see. Run it. No error messages, so that's a good start. Open it up. There you go. Look at that. Perfect. What a guesswork there is. Total there. Lined up nicely with that. That is all of these are just \t's that I put in there, just the 3 in a row and then 1 there, and that's lined up really nicely. And you can actually start messing around with ASCII art if you wanted to and put a logo across the top, but don't worry too much about that. Hope that's helped, and good luck.